Hey there folks, Uncle Troy here with another C-Word update. First off, I got a new shirt. Celebrate, Fight Back. Basically it's a Relay for Life shirt for the American Cancer Society. I received it, they gave them away at last chemotherapy I was at. Let's see, chemotherapy last Monday, a week ago as I'm recording this. Let me get positioned here a little better. Last Monday I went in and my platelets were low, and so they actually had to check with the doctor to see if they wanted me to do the chemo or not. And the doctor said something like, well, if he was 71 we would probably not do it, but since he's 46 we can go ahead and let him do this. And I assume the assumption is that I'm young and I'm strong and therefore I can handle chemo better than the old folks. I've seen the old folks at the chemo place. They handle chemo better than I do. Especially this little port here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I require a syringe full of lidocaine every time they access my port to kind of pump it in there and let it numb the skin, and then they take that big hook needle that accesses the port and then I feel great because I don't feel anything. But the little old people, they don't mind. They get upset that and naturally every time I start recording the central heat and air kicks on, and I'm sure that the camera will decide that the sound of that fan across the room is more important than the sound of my voice right here 3 feet from it. But anyway, the little old ladies, however, when they come over from the chemo, they said, oh, don't bother numbing it, don't bother using the lidocaine, don't bother using the little freezing spray they use, just stick it in there because it takes longer to do all that. But me, I need a full thing of lidocaine every single time because I just cannot handle the thought of that needle going through my skin without it. So they went ahead and did the chemo even though the platelets were low, and as I've explained before, one of the drugs I get, they give it to me over the course of 3 days. They hook me up to a pump that I take home. So if I go in on Wednesday or going on Monday, after they finish with 2 of the drugs I'm on, then they hook me up to a 3rd drug with a take-home pump, and then I come back on Wednesday to disconnect me. 46 hours is the actual runtime. And so for the first time since I've started chemo, when I came back on that Wednesday, they also drew blood to run more lab work to check the platelets, and the platelets were lower than they were Monday, naturally because of the chemo. So I went back today, the next Monday. Well, let me tell you what they did first. They basically said, okay, we're going to have to set up your schedules because of this platelets is worrying us. So what they did was they set me up for Monday today to come back for chemo, or excuse me, come back to check the platelets again, and then scheduled me for Thursday to come back and check the platelets again in preparation for the next Thursday when I come back for more chemo. So it's going to be Monday, Thursday, and then this Monday, next coming Monday, I've got a doctor's appointment with my surgeon, the guy that put it in my port and did the perianal abscess surgery, which is a whole other ball game. But anyway, they checked it today, and they were going to check it again Thursday, and then they were going to check it again the next Thursday before the chemo. But I went there and they only had to poke me about 3 times to get the blood today. Anytime you see me with one of these, it's because I've been to the doctor and they've had to poke me for blood. I prefer they poke the back of my hand if it's one of the days when I got a good vein day. Some days my veins just don't pop up no matter how tight you put the tourniquet, no matter how tight you tie the tourniquet, no matter how much you beat on my arm, trying to get the veins just don't pop up. Or if they do, as soon as you stick the needle in, the veins just disappear. They just go away. And I don't know if they roll or hide or shrink, or sometimes they get caught on a valve, but basically some days just my veins will not give blood, and that's when they have to go to the port. But I hate having to access the port and going through all the trouble with the lidocaine and getting the big needle and plugging it in just to get a couple of vials of blood. So I prefer to go standard venipuncture when possible. Today it wasn't too bad. The first time they poked me, if you can see, got a couple of red spots here. One of them is from the previous Monday and one of them is from today, and then the actual poke that got the actual actual blood's right there. So they took my blood, they ran it, the numbers, they took the sheet of paper and ran off to find the doctor, and the doctor come back and said that my platelets were better and good enough that I could skip the Thursday coming in to have my platelets checked again, just wait until the next Thursday when I came in for my chemo and have the lab work then, and just check right before the chemo to see if my platelets had come up enough for chemo. But based on how much they'd come up in the few days since I'd been off the chemo, they figured, I think they've got some kind of formula or something, but basically your platelets recover X amount every couple of days, or there's a half-life on how low, if the platelets go down from the normal, there's a half-life on how long it takes to get back. Let's see, since I last recorded, I went and saw one of the providers, and they discussed the CT scan that I had recently, and I don't have it handy, but basically since the last CT scan, the number of lesions I have in my lungs and liver are smaller, fewer number, less dense, and again, no new metastatic tumor. Mets is the shorthand. Cancer people, apparently that's what I was supposed to have been saying, is Mets. But no new Mets, and that is, of course, always good news, because that means the chemotherapy is working, and if it's not going to cure me, at least it's going to keep me from getting any worse for a while. And that's when you get to stage 4, that's about all you can hope for, is not going to get any worse for a while. Also, they said my kidneys are normal, adrenal glands are normal, bowels normal, except for the one big tumor. My spleen is a little enlarged, and according to the internet, my mind was so stuck on the no new Mets, and all the existing tumors are smaller, or I think 10 to 15% smaller is what they said, or 10 to 15% fewer. But so I so set on that I forgot to ask him about the what it meant by the spleen being enlarged. But I've since checked the internet, and of course if it's on the internet it has to be true. But according to the internet, the spleen can be enlarged if it's having to work harder, and one of the ways the spleen works is filtering out the dead red blood cells. And if it's having to filter out more red blood cells, then it works harder and becomes enlarged. And chemotherapy damages red blood cells, and they've given me shots, I think one maybe twice, shots that were designed to boost my red blood cell production to build up my red blood cells after they've gotten low because of the chemo. So I'm assuming my spleen is working overtime filtering out all the dead red blood cells from the chemotherapy, and that's why it's enlarged. And it was only slightly enlarged, and he didn't seem to be concerned about it. And like I said, I wasn't thinking about it at the time to ask, but I don't think it's anything to worry about right now. What else? My perianal abscess is still draining where I had the surgery. My girlfriend's rather concerned. Oh, here's a picture of my girlfriend, by the way. Me and my girlfriend. She came to visit today and actually went with me to the doctor. And when I had the lab work, and of course had to tell embarrassing stories about me to all the girls in the lab and the nurses and whatnot that came by. But she's concerned that I'm still draining and still having some pain from the perianal abscess surgery. But the doctor that's in charge of that, I'm going to go see him next Monday. He's not concerned. He says I'm getting better and that healing. It's a very slow process apparently. When they cut you open down to wherever a infection is and let you heal back, because you got to heal from the inside out. Because if you heal from the outside in, then you get any fluid built up or something, then you end up with another fistula and another trip to the ER where they get you to quit puking and decide that's sufficient and send you home, and then 2 days later you're back and spend a week in the hospital. They apologize for that, by the way. The ER doctor that I saw apologized to me personally, and the doctor from my cancer group that was on call apologized to me for not realizing how serious my condition was and having to put me right back into the hospital not 2 days after I'd been into the emergency room for the same problem. But it's the perianal abscess. It still hurts sometimes. It still drains, but compared to what it was before the surgery, I'm fine. Don't worry about me at all. Before the surgery, they do pain on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being hardly noticeable, and 10 being, or 0 being no pain. 1 being hardly noticeable, all the way up to 10, which is the worst pain you can imagine. Well, prior to the surgery, while I was in the hospital on painkillers, I still had a new 10. And since the surgery, it's like 1 or 2, barely noticeable, hardly worth the effort of mentioning it. I do notice if I sit too long, I start draining more and it hurts more, so I spend a lot of time on my side in the bed, which is the only thing I feel like doing anyway is laying in bed during the chemotherapy anyway, so it kind of works out. So ironically, when I'm feeling better from the chemotherapy and I start feeling better and start sitting up more, that's when I feel worse on the perianal abscess, because I put more pressure on it, and it bleeds more, it drains more, it hurts more. But again, compared to what it was before the surgery, that's nothing, and nothing to be concerned about at all. And I'm sitting on the bed now, so I've got a nice broad area. It's not like a hard surface. And when I sit at the computer, I've got like a big thick towel folded over a big foam pad, so I've got plenty of. It's just when I go out and have to ride in the car, sit on other people's chairs, whatnot. Ironically, when I was seeing the doctor this last time, last Thursday or Monday or whenever it was, we went over the CT scan results. Ironically, sitting on that chair in the examination room was the hardest and hurt most that I'd done like all week. So in seeing the doctor, I hurt worse than ever before. So I just find that ironic or funny or whatever you want to call it. Okay, let's see. I think I've covered everything. CT scan results, the platelets are back up. It's still not in the normal range, but high enough that they're not worried about me having any problems before the next chemo. We'll go in the Thursday after New Year's for the next round of chemo. We'll take blood work first to make sure I'm okay, and then we'll do the chemo. And I'm enjoying my new purple shirt. Mostly I've been wearing white shirts or black shirts because the last 2 places I've worked, that's what we had to wear under our uniform, so that's all I bought. So I'm kind of enjoying my new purple shirt. That, like I said, was a gift from the cancer people. I think they were just cleaning out their closets because they're going under a new company and they're getting new equipment and moving things around. So I think they just uncovered some old t-shirts for the last Relay for Life and just gave them out to their patients, is what I think happened. But I'm still going to pretend like I'm honored that they gifted me this shirt. Okay, well, Uncle Troy signing out. Thanks for all your comments, your thumbs up, your questions. Any questions about cancer, my cancer, what's going on with me? It's stage 4 colorectal cancer. I'm fine talking to people about it, so if you have any questions, just feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Uncle Troy signing out. Please have a good night.